And we're up to Rick now. Rick provided us some information on funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jen, you said I have this.
Save it on your desktop.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Mr. Chair and Council, I have a couple documents that I was hoping ultimately to get approval from Council. But this is the first time you have seen them. So if you would like to discuss them and then consider them and come back for approval or denial, that would be fine with me.
One question, Rick, is the legal staff looked at it?
There has been some legal review, but this is, and I realized I wasn't actually sharing my screen. This is a new version, and I can definitely have legal run through this if you would like to beforehand, but at the very least, I'll walk you through what we're intending. First is the background on the SSBCI program. So this is a Department of Treasury program that as part of the ARPA, the act that ARPA is short for, was made available to tribes for the first time. It stands for State Small Business Credit Initiative, and that gives some indication that it was previously only available to states, but ARPA made it available to tribes. CSKT, excuse me, submitted a letter of intent in June of 2021 to participate in the program. And at that time, we were working with Sovereign Leasing and Financing to administer the program and sort of add to their pool of resources to help fund tribal member-owned businesses. In the fall, there was some staff turnover that created some capacity issues. James Bible, who's now has replaced Sam Wall over there, has he was just getting into his role and hadn't been brought up to speed on SSBCI program. That time in October, November, the application was due in December. There have been several extensions of that by the Treasury, but now we're about a week out. This program, because it had a tight turnaround and the turnover happened, and with the internal capacity issues that we had trying to get a new program up and running, one of the suggestions that Treasury made for the SSBCI program was that tribes could, and they encouraged joint applications and designation of the administrative functions of administering the program to, in particular, CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, which have experience with SSBCI since its inception. So we made contact with a group, a coalition of other tribes that have been working on this joint application. The application effectively pools the funding from each of the participating tribes into a fund that would provide equity investments into tribal member businesses. So loans have debt service requirements. These wouldn't. It'd be more like a venture capital type of investment. That was appealing because we need more tools in our toolbox for helping tribal member business owners. It was also appealing because of the ability to implement a program without having to get additional staff up to speed or add to the workload of current staff. Long story short, this resolution and this joint agreement are a result of the originally four tribal nations working with Department of Treasury to come up with the language as you see it, minus a couple whereases and formatting things. That is required for the application submission. The application allows CSKT to take its allocation, which is still not fully determined because it'll be based on the total pool of applicants, but approximately 1.4 million. Combine that with the other applicants for approximately a $4 million pool that would be administered by a group familiar with both SSBCI and this type of equity investing. But each community, the portion that would comes back to our community. So we're finding the potential business owners and encouraging them to go through this vetting process, and the investment comes back to our community. So it's a pool, but the pool's carved into the pieces that we have. What it has the potential to do is become evergreen immediately, meaning that it's a constantly revolving and diversified portfolio that carries with it less risk of our community loans or equity investments failing and that money just dying, because the pool does allow those resources as they're revolved to potentially be spread back to communities where those investments might not have actually panned out, if that makes sense. So overall, it's a good approach, I think. The resolution, as you see it, lays out our points of contact. The implementing entity, that's the group that is administering the program. This is that capacity that we don't have, that originally was going to be Sovereign Leasing and Finance. It is the Navajo CDFI, and then there's Tada Atone has been the sort of cat herder working to put all of these pieces together in the application together. The other document is the joint powers agreement. And there are a few things in here, but essentially it says we are a group that are coming together for this one common purpose. There's administrative functions that have to happen. Those requirements and responsibilities are laid out. Those apply to the Navajo CDFI. And then each of the participating tribal nations has those two representatives that become the sort of oversight or review board for this fund and provide an approval for the submission of the reporting that's required. And basically provide not a formal board. We're not starting a new entity or anything, but having a voice in whether or not the Navajo CDFI is representing our interests. Well, there shouldn't be any issue with that because they're really not involved in anything more than a paperwork capacity, in a reporting capacity. And both of those are very minimal for this program. One thing that is kind of appealing is if we get to the end of 2032, these funds become unattached in any way to a federal program. And if we decide to kind of withdraw from that and use these funds for anything else, we can do that, assuming we would like to. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you all might have.
That assuming is that with the 2/3 majority vote?
It is a 2/3 majority vote, but it is also so in the equity investing world, there are exits is the term. So as the pool turns over, there are individually opportunities for those exits to be distributed to the tribes that are based on which pot of funding was used for that investment. The portion you're looking at under termination, that is the termination of the fund itself. And that's in there because if this pool is investing in a group, it is going to be pulling outside investment in from private businesses and contractors, and disconnecting from that has downside. So the termination clause requiring 2/3 majority is really meant to prevent one tribe from pulling out with all of the damaging side effects that could have for those tribes that want to stay in. So it's basically we would have to agree to end the fund as a group. That doesn't mean we can't pull portions of our investment or our returns out kind of piecemeal. It just means we wouldn't be able to take our full 1.4 million and in 3 years say we're going to do it ourselves without getting buy-in from the rest of the group.
So for someone to apply for this funding, they go through VELDA?
Yeah, we're looking to finalize the sort of pipeline process. I think now that James Bible is up and on his feet, we would probably try and funnel them through sovereign leasing and financing.
So tribal credit isn't party to this, or they weren't sought as an alternative?
They were, but it is, and they might be able to participate and provide some pipeline, but it's significantly different from what they're traditionally trying to accomplish. But I see them as being a potential refer.
So you mentioned that there was over $1 million attributed to us, and the total account might be around 4 million, but there's 6 tribes involved. So if we're successful and we're successful on our end, then that successfulness then stays with us. It's not something that goes to that pool of money as it grows, doesn't go to everybody.
It's intended to stay with us, but as it revolves, there's more flexibility in that funding. So there's a possibility if our representatives would like to jointly fund a project that another tribe wants to participate in, that could happen. But it was truly, while Treasury said you should work together, tribes, they made it really kind of complicated to get done, and it's taken about 6 months to work through. The short version is this is the mechanism for us to have a jointly administered program and take advantage of somebody else's ability to follow the rules while still getting some investment back to us.
Bottom line, this is new money available to us that we didn't have before.
Correct.
And really the risk of it all is pretty minimal, if not nothing.
Yeah, it's all new money. I've been involved with the SSBCI program in the past, and it is very, very flexible, and it's another tool with low risk to us.
It's always good to see tribes be treated equally as states. So glad ARPA did that. Any questions from other council members?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Rick. I'm assuming this is federal funding. I know what yeah. We've had a lot of requests from people that want to get into the cannabis business. And so would that be an allowable loan, or are those addressed at all? I don't know without looking. Curious if you have seen anything. Thank you.
At the current moment, no. This unfortunately still has, because it is federal funding, still has those same restrictions. As soon as, or if the feds change the schedule for marijuana, I think it would become, or potentially if they just act on the Safe Banking Act, it may be an eligible investment. For the first round of money, there would be restrictions, but as it revolves, those restrictions would be lessened, and that should open up as an opportunity, but probably not for at least 2 to 3 years minimum.
Mike?
Mr. Chair, you mentioned 6 tribes. I see 5. Is it 6?
5 on the back, and then the Navajos.
Well, the Navajo.
So Navajo is not a tribe. It's just a.
Oh, okay.
It's just
It's
an
the
entity.
CDFI
My bad.
doing the job. Are they doing it for several other consortiums?
They are not. We are the first, and as of right now, only consortium, only group. And in fact, we grew from 4 to 5. We actually grew to 6, and then one tribe backed out. I think just because they didn't want to go through the headache of continuing in the process, to be honest. But we have grown because the application you mentioned being treated equally as states, not quite. It's been very difficult for tribes to go through this application process. We've grown because we've had a bulldog in Miss Atone to have weekly calls with the SSBCI and weekly calls with this group to figure out how to get through the process. I anticipate actually that, and so does the group, that there will be more tribes that will use this model after it gets passed the SSBCI, after all of the tribes submit the resolutions and we go through it. In fact, the group is presenting at RES in a couple weeks, the tribal economic conference on this model as a way for tribes to actually get into and access the funding. It's definitely novel.
So I guess I'm kind of confused as to who, if they applied through here, who reviews and approves the loan or the grant? Is it a loan or a grant?
It would be equity. So you could think of it as a rich uncle or aunt kicking in some money and saying, pay me back when you're successful. I mean, that's kind of the model that it's going after. Is there's no guaranteed debt service payments, so it helps with like cash flow. It just gives you an injection of funds. The review committee would be two-phased. One would be our initial group, and that's why we want to bring James Bible and his staff in. And then the second would be the consortium and the Brown Venture Group themselves. But the consortium, they're looking at things. The model we're going to try and establish is a good potential in business would get assistance to make sure that when they get presented to the larger group, that those questions have been answered. And everyone involved is really focused on, they're all equity investors in the fair sense, not in the which part of the balance sheet it looks at. They're specifically trying to provide access to this type of an investment for tribal communities, because tribal communities typically can't access it. These are the type of investment that that you see on TV, where somebody gets a round of funding and it allows them to grow even while they're not making positive cash flow, and eventually become listed on the stock market and make everybody rich. That's not what people here are looking for. It's more that aunt, uncle who has some money and says, I have something that I can give you to help you succeed, that you don't have to pay back until you're successful. That's very, very appealing and very, very rare. Banks don't do it. It's usually individuals or groups like this. Groups like this, though, don't invest in tribal communities. They don't invest in people of color communities. So everyone that is working with this group for this application is focused on trying to correct that.
Kelly?
So the
And says that we'll appoint 2 representatives to receive and review the quarterly and annual reports. That would be Velda and Greg. Ben?
Correct, yeah.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, you know, you said you didn't need to have it approved today, right?
Don't need to, no, if you're, I mean, mostly, I want you to be comfortable because this is a different kind of investment. It would need approval no later than next Tuesday if we're gonna make this application, but yeah, it's different, it's new, it's taken a long time to get to this place, so I don't wanna strong arm you all.
Jen?
There is no council next Tuesday. You guys are going on the field trip to Condon. So,
We might be able to go Thursday.
Okay.
I guess my only be consistent would be to have tribal legal department lay eyes on it. That would be my only recommendation. Otherwise, it looks pretty safe to me.
I think with the caveat that they need to get it done by Thursday, because if we give it to them and they don't have time to review it, well, it's a waste of time.
I'll talk to Dan. I mean, it might take him 10 minutes and I could report back later this morning even.
Go ahead, Carol.
It seems like normally in this process, legal would have had to review it, so I would like to have a legal review just for our own.
Yeah, and there's been many drafts, so they've been involved at various times since January, but this version just came through last week.
Maybe we can take action on Thursday then. The consensus of council, seek legal review for final status of this and go forward then. All right, well, thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, there is no,
Well, that's right.
you're doing
We're
a field
doing
trip
the
on
housing authority.
Thursday.
if you guys want to come here at 9, do whatever walk-ins or this type of thing,
Well-
and then head to Skaha
If-
before 10.
If getting legal to sign off on it is, if that's the barrier, I'll just go and see if they're able to look at it and potentially
Today,
get back today.
super.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, next we have Daryl Claremont up.
Good morning, everyone. Name is Daryl Claremont. I'm the fuels.
Hold on a second, Daryl.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you fill out your form and then we'll do Daryl real quick. Go ahead, Daryl.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this morning I'm asking for council approval to purchase 4 fuels vehicles. They would be 3/4 ton crew cab, 4-wheel drive pickups. And these are vehicles that the region and the national office for the BIA have approved supplemental requests. So this is fuels funding that would come down from the national fuels funding source to support the fuel staff and the fuel crew. Last year I was approved as well to increase our fuels crew up to a full 40 individuals. And I was also approved to increase my fuel staff by 3 individuals. So these vehicles are helping to support the increase in staffing levels.
Any questions for Daryl? Anita?
So I don't see an amount, Daryl. Or is that something that's coming in with your quotes?
Yeah, so talking with the regional fuels specialist, I've been approved 41,000 per vehicle to purchase 6 vehicles. 2 of the vehicles I've already gotten council approval for. So right now I'm just asking for approval for 4. What we've been noticing working with property and supply is it's very difficult to purchase these vehicles for $41,000. But the regional fuel specialist has asked me to move forward, get either quotes or purchase vehicles, and then ask for the difference between what the actual cost is and what I've already been approved for. So the funding part, I've been approved for 41,000 per vehicle, but I've been told I will be given the difference in the cost. So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Martin.
I'll just say it before you do. Could you get either go electric or hybrid? I know those are hard to get, but if you have an option, I think we should always look to that. Thank you. And I'd make the motion to approve.
Motion by Martin to approve the request for purchase of capital equipment in the form of 4 new vehicles for the Division of Forestry Fire Fuels Program. Second by Carol. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous? You're good to go, Daryl.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. All righty, walk in. Executive session?